Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Sunday night breakdown on a Sunday for once. There we go. Good us. Daniel Ratledge and Dave Forrester to go through all of the action, of which there was a lot, or at least most of the action, because we didn't see it all. Let's quickly touch on the Lions game in Europe on Wednesday. They lost to Wolves, although it didn't matter because not long after they started that game, Hapoel Tel Aviv had already won, so it wouldn't have affected their positioning. They lost 80-85, which means they finished third with a 12-6 record, and now they'll take on Turk Telecom, who finished sixth in the other group. In a single game elimination. If they get through that, they'll play a single game quarterfinal against Cluj-Napoca. And if they were to get through that, they'd be in a best of three semi-final against either Paris, Ulm, or Juventud Badalona. Not the easiest path.
It does seem a lot of games to play for single game knockouts, doesn't it?
Yeah, but at least they put best of three in for the semi-final and final this year.
So. True. Just that I'm not sure how they got. They've not been great at home. And without Decker, there's a lot more jeopardy for them, I think. In relation to that game against Turk Telecom, who are obviously a team that's been around Europe for a long, long time. So yeah, I think they're talking about playing that game beginning of March. So we'll see where their team is at that point.
Yeah, there is a date for it, and I haven't written it down. I think it's like the 6th or something, 5th or 6th. Somewhere.
I didn't take much notice this game. I was what was I doing? I think I was wandering around Philadelphia. So you tell us what happened.
Running through. I didn't watch it either. I was doing a Europe game, so, and because they lost,
Europe was a bit of a this year was a bit of a added extra. Also, we don't get it. Sorry.
So I would expect them to beat Turk Telecom at home. Cluj away will be more of a challenge, and I would presume that Paris would get through from the other side, and beating Paris over 3 games will be a challenge if they get that far. So we will see. Let's go to the British Basketball League games starting on Thursday. London Lions 84, Sheffield Sharks 73. I was doing a record-breaking EuroLeague game on Thursday night, by the way. 20 assists, new EuroLeague record.
Oh yeah, so the triple-double.
Yeah, and a triple-double, only the 4th in EuroLeague history.
Cody Miller-McIntyre.
Yeah.
Keep abreast.
So I literally only watched this morning, and I didn't have much time, and it didn't look like a very good game. So I put it on 1.5 speed and was tapping through pretty quickly. But Nixon was out. Green and Eitel Rock were starting. I think we wondered last game at Surrey whether they might change the starting lineup, and he did. But Grantham out hitting threes, 6-point lead. Sheffield did make a couple of threes as well early on, so we're just about hanging on to them.
Yeah, it's a kind of a tough one though, because you change your starting lineup. Fair enough. I think we all thought they probably had to go down that route. But your new guy Green then struggles. And struggled in the 2 games that he started. So he'd been giving you 20 off the bench, and then they put him in the starting lineup. It's a different dynamic,
I think he was 1 for 7 or 8 in this.
Of course, it's London as well, so they have more
it's London.
Used to. But also it's a different dynamic because a lot of the Sheffield's offense really goes through Cook. Often. So the spacing's a bit different as to when he isn't in the game, and losing Nixon is a bit of a loss. Eitel Rock obviously he's got something, but he hasn't played many games since he got back from injury. So you're asking quite a lot of him to kind of get back into the flow against that London team, and it's difficult. Sheffield. It's difficult for Sheffield to create enough offense, and against London in particular, without Nixon, who was a guy who brought them back in the last game. You never felt that they were going to get the quality of shots that they needed to stay close, and they didn't really stay close.
No, London had Sharma got a 3rd foul in the first quarter, but then London had an 18-3 run in the second to lead 45-23, and that was basically game done. The 11 was probably
it was a 28-point game after 3 quarters, I think. And it's as I say, Sheffield are going through some stuff. They got to try and figure out a group that works and is cohesive together, and then a bench group that works and is cohesive together. And they also got to work out what speed they want to play. because I think as the season goes on, as teams are becoming more familiar with each other, the standard's always better in February than it is in September because teams are better because they know each other better. And as that happens, I think teams are speeding up a little bit, and because they know where they want the shots, and the games are being played just a little bit faster. And it's tough for Sheffield. They're going to have to find a way of doing that and find a way of generating more 3-point shots in their offense, I think. But they will come back because they will play. They always do. They will play for defense, no doubt, and they will get a couple of stops, a couple of wins at home, I think. But there's no gimmies now.
No.
You know, and so it's it's tough. It's tough. You know, it's tough to have a guy who he scored 20 a game for 3 games, then you put him in a starting lineup and he struggled 2 weeks in a row. You know, it's like as you're a coach, you think, well, I've done the right thing, but it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
Go back to us.
And as you say, you don't know whether that's because he's starting or because it's London.
Oh, because it's London, yeah. And then obviously that gives a rocket to someone like Kipper. So Kipper plays better. So then he plays better off the bench. So is he then going to come back on the starting lineup again? It's tough. That's why I think people mid-season is always a battle. It just always is. Even London with Nwaba haven't been as he's talented and they've got a massive margin for error in the BBL games, but they're not as smooth as it would be if they had a shooter in there. If they have a decade, but Nwaba's different. He's an athletic kind of guy out of the G League. The G League's different to the British Basketball League and to Europe, and the way London have played with their ball movement. It's hard. It's hard just to fit somebody in with that degree of talent who has to play, but everybody has to adjust to him.
Yeah.
So Sheffield can have the same issues, I think.
Indeed. Grantham 5 of 6 for 3, 20 points and 10 rebounds. Connor Morgan 14, Philip 12. They were 13 of 30 for 3 and had 25 fast break points.
I think it's 20 and 10 was in 20 minutes as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty sharp going.
Yeah, it is. Nichols 18, Cook 13, Glasgow 12. They were 5 of 19 for 3 by contrast. 40 points off the bench, but a different bench.
A different bench.
Let's go to Friday night. Newcastle Eagles 105, Caledonia Gladiators 93. Eagles with an 8-0 run midway through the first quarter. They were 14-6 up, having gone 7 of 8 from the floor.
Yeah, I made the mistake of fighting the jet lag and actually going to this game.
Oh, did you?
Going to sleep because I landed about midday on Friday, and I hadn't slept much, but yeah, went and I paid for it the last couple of days as a result, I think. It was a fun game, actually. It was an up and down game. I mean, people don't necessarily ever understand, but there is a genuine animus in the games between Newcastle and Glasgow and Caledonia. Not animus personally, but just in relation to the level of kind of competitiveness, and we had 3 guys on the court who are carrying that forward. Well, probably 4 actually, if you include Fraser Malcolm, but Gareth, Darius, and Jordan Johnson, because Jordan Johnson played at Caledonia, and this was a game whereby I thought if Newcastle had kept to the scouting report the way they did in the first quarter for the other 3 quarters, I thought they could have won this. They could have won this game going away, but they have their flaws as well, and they couldn't. So yeah, they play. I mean, they're back to starting the 3 guards, and actually it actually looks as good as it's looked all season.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
with Johnson, McGill, and Austin. Austin's kind of finding his way with those 2, and he's cutting and he's rebounding and he's getting his stuff, and I think he had 10 rebounds in this game. So it doesn't matter if you're 6'1", if you're playing the 3, if you're getting 10 rebounds, you can play the 3.
Yeah.
And that allowed them to get off and run a little bit early. Caledonia are a solid, systematic group, missing a guard, obviously. Peter Whelan and Bothwell have had to play a lot in this game. And I assume they're going to be signing somebody. They have to sign somebody, I think, to give them another guy in the backcourt rotation. But, I thought, in reality, it was an up and down game. It was a fast-paced game. I thought Defoe was a difference, certainly early on. I thought he outplayed Ali Hodzic. Insofar as he was the one who was able to get stops.
Yeah. Austin and Johnson back-to-back threes to make it 30-19 at the start of the second quarter. Whelan and Poliza some threes near the end of the quarter, 9-1 run, 49-46. That was kind of the pattern of the game. Newcastle would pull out to a bit of a lead. Gladiators make a few shots and trim it. I was never convinced they were going to get all the way back, I must be honest.
Yeah, it was a bit like the game Newcastle played against the Belgian team in Europe. They just couldn't guard the quickness. They're a big team, Caledonia. Whelan and Bothwell, are big guards. But you've got three very, very quick guys you've got to guard there, and they struggle to get any stops. Caledonia are not a team that's been playing in the 90s and the hundreds all season. And in this game they did. I thought also the big difference in this game was that Newcastle had a little bit more depth. Green couldn't guard anybody. Taj Green, he couldn't guard Poliza, just couldn't stay close. He's not used to guarding guys who can shoot like that, who can move like that. But it gave, but having Spencer to a certain degree and Ward Hibbert back as well, that gave Mark the opportunity to go small to match up. And so Green didn't play, I think, the last 16 minutes of the game. And they needed that for defense. Poliza impressed me. The first time I've seen him in the flesh, he's a genuine 6'7.5", probably. But, he's not a 6'5" shooter, he's a 6'7", and he moves very, very well for a guy that big. They don't look fully formed. There's a big thing with Ali Hodzic and Moore, and Ali Hodzic is playing with them more than Gareth finished this game with Moore. I understand why, because Ali Hodzic is struggling. He threw he got frustrated. He got turned over a couple of times. He threw a cheap elbow into Defoe's ribs, which
was similar today actually, because Ali Hodzic. It was at the end of the game. I thought, "Oh, there's Ali Hodzic. He hasn't been on for a while."
No, because
like they just ride
they
him
are.
more.
I think he needs another guard to play with. I don't think Bothwell's a great guard for him to play with, because Bothwell dribbles the ball, because Bothwell's not a point guard. And I think it's thrown their system off a little bit, and he's a very systematic player, Ali Hodzic. But there's 3 or 4 times in this game where Defoe stripped him of the ball. And that then they have no chance in transition as a result. And I say he got frustrated. And if the refs had replay, I think he'd probably got an unsportsmanlike.
Yeah.
But there's still flaws to both teams. Newcastle flaws are that they can't put the foot down when they're on top. They lack the ability to kind of hold it down for 3 or 4 stops in a row to make an 8-point game a 16-point game. That's why these games have happened all season, and that's primarily defensive, because there are times where the guards take bad decisions defensively. McGill can be very kind of lackadaisical at times and give up shots he doesn't need to do until someone makes a shot on him and he starts playing defense. And Austin kind of he's a very live player, but in the half court, Poliza should not be running around off screens getting open threes with Austin guarding him, because Austin should be quick enough to navigate those screens. That's what skill he's got, and he really wasn't. There was times that he was caught. So that was their issue. But I enjoyed the game, and he had a little bit of pantomime stuff at the end.
I was about to say a little bit of Gareth getting some teas and being disqualified and having a few words on the way out the door.
Yeah, it's a long walk, sadly, and he took the long way around. He did the long way around. He was frustrated. I think he was frustrated by the fact that they couldn't get stops. That's the reality of it. They couldn't get stops. I mean, to be fair, McGill is utterly mercurial, and I think it was down to maybe a 2-point game. I think Darius made a 5-point game. Darius made it was a 2-point game. I think Gary's got a steal, and McGill shot a 1-on-0 3-point shot. He made it to 5. Then he shot another one from 30 feet and made it to 8. And he's dancing around and jumping around, and he's just saying, "Please get back on defense, please." And then I think they got back down to 5, and then Darius made a 15-footer. Got it up to 7, and they never quite got to where they needed to get to. Even though Newcastle, even with a minute to go, 8 up, they managed to turn the ball over, trying to get the ball into that point guard on the halfway. It's just so many flaws. So frustrating watching them, because they could be really good.
McGill, 10 of 17 for 30 points and 5 assists. Johnson, 20 points and 7 assists. Austin, 16. I didn't write the rebounds down, but I think you're right. He did it. He had
Yeah,
9
they
or
did.
10, didn't he?
Yeah.
Whelan, 21 points, 8 assists. Palisa, 16. And Bothwell, 14. Leicester Riders, 102. Plymouth City Patriots, 81. Not a lot in this game until the first real run of consequence actually came from Plymouth. They had 13 points in a row to go from 28-23 behind to 28-36 ahead.
Yeah, Leicester's bench struggled a bit, didn't it?
Mm.
The unit kind of didn't work, I think, the way he wanted to. Plymouth thought, I think Faulkner didn't play much. You kind of came out at the end of the first quarter. I didn't see much from him after that.
No.
And this, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with PJ and the team. It's tough, because they play some, they move the ball and they get decent looks, and Wiley's playing aggressively, and Dusha is moving the basketball, and they got decent shots, but they just don't necessarily have the depth of physicality and talent to defend teams, I don't think. And in the end of this game, I think last 13 minutes, Levi wasn't in the game because he went for offense instead of defense. And you just don't know how they're going to manufacture a win with what they've got. They're going to have to hold. They don't really have an identity. They're a nice, pretty offensive team. They move the ball. They're a bit undersized. They are generally will make good plays. And you think, well, that's a nice play, or that's a nice play. But you don't kind of stringing together enough stops to find a way of beating somebody like Leicester. And they gave up 100 in this game. The 95-point rule, I think, won about 5-0 this week.
Yeah.
And ultimately Leicester are pretty good. That's it's a time of season where you kind of got to throw the records out a little bit, because you've got a few teams who are new almost.
Yeah.
And so you look at the league table, but it doesn't necessarily tell you everything you need to know. And I think Leicester are a little bit further on than Newcastle, but they're both kind of trending upwards. A little bit further on because primarily of Mackenzie and his mindset and the way that he runs that team. They're not by any means a finished article though. They have a lot of offensive firepower, which in this league is going to keep you in games. Defensively, they fluctuate. Leicester, some stuff.
And at times they make poor decisions. But I'm thinking more of today's games. There was a couple of plays where I thought they had a chance to knock Caledonia out, and they didn't take it, and then suddenly it's a 3-point game, and you're like, well, what were you taking the previous 2 shots for?
Yeah, and they weren't getting stops.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, because you have a chance. You're up 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't score a couple of times, but if you get stops, maybe you get a run out, you're up 12. You weren't getting stops. And I think they guard far better than they did, no question.
Yeah.
And they guard diligently. But you can score on them. I mean, so Caledonia today with Mua scoring on them, Levi was able to get inside and score. You can run on them a little bit. So that's their kind of stuff to improve on. But offensively, when particularly when Thomas is on, when Aaron's playing in rhythm, that's a tough team, because you forget about players like Holmes and Lawal and Mackenzie, and they'll kill you if you're not disciplined on them. But yeah, Plymouth, it's tough to see. Copeland is an interesting player. He's just come to it. He looks kind of. I was quite impressed with him. I thought he was diligent. This time last year, I think they brought a couple of Americans in who looked like they were crackers.
Yeah.
But I can't remember their names, to be honest. No pointing at the ref and complaining after every call. But Copeland just seems to kind of get on with it and has a nice kind of 3-level game. So I think PJ has done well with that. But whether it's going to be enough to kind of create a win or a couple of wins for them, you have to look around and see who are they going to beat.
Yeah. So Leicester in this one had a 10-0 run to take the lead, and then in the second half, Thomas, who'd been on the bench with fouls in the first half, hit a 3. Adowu hit a 3, and then had an alley-oop, and they were up 63-54 mid-third quarter, and then Thomas, Lawler and Allen put it away with a 12-2 spell at the start of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, and Plymouth are going to have droughts, I think, because they are reliant on kind of fewer. There are fewer guys who can get their own. If that makes any sense. You know, they're reliant on making kind of team making plays to get scores. So, you know, the ball's moving. LVC is getting the screen and roll going. That's fine, but they're tough plays. It's tough plays to make. Joe Hart coming off curls and knocking down threes. They're tough plays to make play after play after play when you're athletically probably overmatched, and they are athletically overmatched. I mean, you know, if you look at what they have, they don't have that much size. They don't have that much bulk. You know, so they're not. Even Levi, who does a great job for what he is, he's you know, it's all hard work, it's all effort. You know, and that is you can get so far on that, but having the ability of someone who can, you know, like Ado, who can just pop out and nail a three. Well, that's a lot. That's 3 points coming a lot easier than Levi getting 2 offensive rebounds for a lane.
Yeah.
You know, so it's tough. They're just a little bit undermanned, but they're competing.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, Allen 25, Adowu 20 and 12, Thomas 19, 4 of 5 from 3, Wiley 22 points, 9 rebounds, Atwood 17, Dusha 9.6 rebounds, 8 assists. So back-to-back for the Patriots on Saturday with Surrey Scorchers 94, Plymouth City Patriots 92. Not a lot in this early on. The most noteworthy thing was Faulkner's injury as he drove to the basket. Those are the ones you always worry about because he didn't really take off, did he? His sort of knee went before.
He didn't take off, and he wasn't on the bench in the second half. Which is always kind of a worry because if you're needing the treatment that you need, if you need treatment that quickly, you know, it's not like you're just wrapping up somebody's ankle and he comes and sits on the bench. You know, he's not on the bench at all. So that was another thing which hurt them. But again, they played well. I don't have as big a problem with the way back to backs because it ultimately saves you a bit of travel on the way home. You know, that they I think are a kind of almost a necessary evil.
They are for Plymouth, Newcastle, Caledonia.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of can take miles out of the season, you know, and save the planet and that type of stuff. So I don't know. I think it was a 5 o'clock tip though, wasn't it? So not a fan of that.
So full disclosure on this one. It's my son's 18th birthday today, and because he's got a game. We had a little party yesterday, so we had a load of family about. So I didn't see a ton of the first. I watched all of the fourth quarter. I didn't see a ton of the first three. I sort of skipped back through a few bits, but it looked pretty close the first 3 quarters.
Yeah, I mean, Surrey signed a new guy, but he wasn't playing this weekend.
No, he wasn't.
I might be. I don't know if that's international clearance or if it's just didn't want to play him.
Well, when I read the press release, it implied like he wasn't going to play this weekend, if I remember rightly.
Hasn't done many harm. And it was very much kind of you shoot, we shoot. It was a good up tempo basketball game. They didn't have Gooden playing either.
No.
And I watched it, and I did watch it, although I don't remember much about it. The thought was, well, I think Surrey are going to win this game, but I also think, you know, but Plymouth were very competitive throughout, and it's probably because, to be fair, Surrey's probably the one team at the moment that Plymouth is physically competitive with, insofar as the size.
Yeah.
You know, so you have Jameson and Plymouth have Levi, and they're both about 6'6". And then the rest is all wings and guards, you know. So it was one of those games whereby I wasn't sure who was going to win, but I always thought Surrey would.
Well, let's get to the end of it then. Final couple of minutes. Surrey were up 5, and then Atwood scored an and one with 1:28 to go to make it 87-85. Mohammed then looked to put the game away. He hit a 3 and then a layup, and inside the final minute, it's 92-85. And I actually stopped writing stuff down at that point. I was just watching it. And then Dusha made 2 free throws. Lawrence turned it over. Wiley dunked it. And I was like, oh, no, I've got to write down what's happening again. It's 92-89.
Yeah, I mean, Plymouth actually missed some foul shots early. Atwood, I think, he missed 3 foul shots. He missed a technical foul shot as well. which ultimately kind of proved a bit of a difference in this game. But they kept competing all the way. I'm trying to remember the Lawrence turnover.
He was under pressure, and he literally threw it straight to, I forget who it was, but he threw it straight to a Plymouth
double
player.
half court maybe.
Yeah.
They double, and that, and then they go the other way.
So then Lloyd calls the timeout. They advanced the ball. They actually needed 3 fouls to send them to the free throw line, but they committed.
That's frustrating. Frustrated me. That you give the first 2 up easy, but when you know that Jameson's on the court, and I mean they were letting them get to the easy. It wasn't the pressurized inbounds. Ultimately, they were letting them just throw the ball to the top where there's going to be a foul to a guard who was going to shoot it. I think it was Cooper, was it?
Cooper, Cooper got fouled. 8.6 seconds to go. He actually only went 1 for 2 after all that, and he's normally nailed on.
That should be a drill that teams do in practice. How do we make them throw the ball to this guy?
Yeah.
You got a face guard Cooper, you got a face guard Robinson. What I mean is you turn your back to the ball and you get literally in their face, and you're shadow dancing with them. To allow them to get there, you put the guy who is guarding Jameson to pop out and double the ball at the top, just to hopefully panic them into throwing the ball to him, and then you dive on him. But they really didn't show any aptitude for that. Those type of little things do matter. And 1 of 2, and then they came down.
Copeland hit a 3 to make it 93-92 with 2.7 seconds to go. Timeout, advance ball. He got into Robinson, and I actually thought at that point Robinson would have been better off shooting, because the amount of time the ball would have taken to get through the air, bounce off the rim, or
just throw it up in the air.
But he waited for a foul, and he got fouled, made the first one, missed the second one, and they've got no chance because there was only 1.6 seconds left.
They didn't get the rebound anyway.
Yeah, they didn't get no. Jameson got the rebound anyway.
I'm not going to say I don't think it was a game which makes you think, oh, Surrey have turned any corners. I think they already have turned that corner anyway. I don't think they played great in this game. I don't think giving up 90 odd points to that Plymouth team on the second night of a back-to-back is something that you'd be particularly happy with if you're the coach. But ultimately, they win another one in the win column.
Yep. And a bit more drama for the home fans as well. Nice. Jameson, 19 points and 12 rebounds. Robinson and Mohammed both had 16. Atwood, 20. Wiley, 19. Copeland, 16. Bristol Flyers, 76. Cheshire Phoenix, 78. Flyers out to an early 14-7 lead, but then Cam Christen with 15 points. As the Knicks took the lead, went up 3. He had an unbelievable start to the game.
Well, Christen played them on his own, didn't he, in the first half? Cheshire couldn't make a shot. Rideau got called for an elbow on the first play, so he was a bit antsy, and he didn't play much in the first half, so Rye had to run the team. Holden couldn't throw it in the ocean. And really, Cheshire were kind of playing like a team who'd kind of come down from the trophy high. You know what I mean? There's a high, you reach the high, and then you fly in the next week, and then suddenly it's back to it. And some of those guys, I wouldn't say they didn't look up for it, but it wasn't happening. But Christen was the opposite. He made play after play after play for them, and he made them in different ways. Bristol are creaking a little bit because even with Christen, that game was there for them in the first half, to create a bit of separation. And I think, as I said a couple of weeks ago, I think losing Graham Bell is massive. I'm not sure you can replace what he gives you in relation to Bradley's not the same. Bradley's not the offensive rebounder, and we know how much Bristol have focused on offensive rebounding because they miss a lot of shots. And Bradley is more of a stretch four who's going to be out on the perimeter or going to post up, but he's not going to be the guy who's flying around or running the floor and getting cheap stuff in transition as well. And so I think they lose that. Then they have the whole, Brad Green, Skylar White thing going on, whereby they started off very well, I thought, attacking Skylar White in the screen and roll, and they got to the rim. Lucas got to the rim, Johnson got to the rim. And that was, but then they went away from that, and then
Yeah.
everybody thinks, oh, Skylar White's 6'7", he's only 6'7", he's not particularly mobile, but he's a unit. And if you try him, the one thing if you try kind of post him up and bang into him, knocking backwards, he's not moving. So you have to try and make him defend in space. And I thought he did a poor job of that. Cheshire, I thought, did a pretty good job of defending the 3-point line. In fact, I would say that, having watched all the games this week, the only two teams who really made a proper effort of defending the 3-point line were Cheshire and probably Leicester tonight. It's a massive. It's been a bugbear. It's been my pet peeve this week. The teams who are not selling out on a scouting report and who are just allowing teams to shoot the way that they want to shoot. I thought Cheshire missed a lot of shots. I thought Bristol gave up a lot of threes to Cheshire, and they missed a lot of shots, which kept it close. But this game was there for Bristol, and then they kind of imploded at the beginning of the fourth quarter.
So they had a 6-0 run in the third quarter to put them 9 up, 55-46. And then the start of the fourth quarter, White with back-to-back threes and then 3 free throws after he was fouled on one. So he had the first 9.
Well, I thought that was the game. I actually thought that was the whole game. And it frustrated the heck out of me because, and I get the commentators saying, oh, well, it's an unusual matchup for Green. He's not used to guarding a guy like White. And I get the fact that they can't really put Green on anybody else, because it's not like they've got Scorchers playing, who you could probably put on to be a bit easier. They've got a bunch of guards and forwards around them, so you can't put them on Holes or anybody like that. So, but so in that case, that's his job. I don't care whether he's used to it or not. We all know that Skylar White shot about 3,000 threes and about 22s all season. Slight exaggeration. And we all know that if you just let him, if he's dribbling the ball towards you and you walk back inside the 3-point line, or you don't have your hand up, he's gonna shoot it. He's gonna make it. So I thought that was frankly, I thought it was bad defense by Green. Whether it's his forte or not, it doesn't matter. You've got to get up to him, and and your coach should be saying, I don't know what the coach was saying, but your coach should be saying, make him dribble past you. I don't care if he dribbles past you, because then he's got to make a play off the dribble for a 2-point shot, or he's got to throw it to somebody on the wing and make a play. And we'll defend 5-on-4. You just don't back up inside the 3-point line and let him pull up and shoot. And then they did, and it happened twice. And the second time was a more egregious one. The second time he actually backed up, as if he was defending the drive. But Skylar White, you are not defending the drive. It's February now. Everybody has to know this. The third one was on the curl, whereby he got caught he got a little hand on the back. Again, you have to. I mean, you have to. In reality, you have to guard him with a guard or a wing or a forward, not as opposed to a big, because the bigs have just demonstrated that. Or Green in this game demonstrated that he couldn't do it. Of course, they missed Leslie Smith as well, who would be a more mobile big, who would probably be happier with that type of job. But I thought that was the game. That was the momentum switch in the game. Suddenly, those 9 points, Bristol going through, I think they had 2 droughts in this game, and they went through a drought because Jacob couldn't make a shot in this game either, which really hurt them. And not selling out to defend, the most recognizable 3-point shooter in the whole league. Even if you've got to go to a zone and you've got to have one of your guards match up on the top with him, and you put Brad Green in the middle, and he tries to beat you that way. You just cannot let him beat you that way. It's like throwing things at the wall. It's like you can't do that. So it's a great play by White, and White stays connected, and he's emotionally invested in every game. So I give him a ton of credit. When he has this. He has a light which is greener than green. And given the amount of greens in the league, that's something special. To shoot it, and so all the credit in the world to him. But it's February now. We've all seen these games. Everybody should be watching these games. If the teams that are going to win games going forward are the teams that are going to be most diligent in taking away from the opposition the shots that they want to shoot, and those shots. Some you can't take away. Some is good ball movement. They just beat you. They beat you on the rotation. They throw the ball around and they get a good shot. Skylar White just kind of standing there and just popping threes and walking into threes. You can take them away. And Bristol didn't, and they paid for it.
It actually ended up being an 18-2 run because there were threes from Stevens and Holden. So they went from 60-53 down to 62-71 up in
And they were
4 minutes as well.
and they were the threes that they were giving up in the first half, but Cheshire were missing.
Yeah.
They didn't, they have enough athleticism, Bristol, to sell out and commit to running people off the 3-point line and making them plays. The scouting report on Cheshire has to be, they've got to make enough twos to beat us, not in transition. You have to. They're shooting 43s a game. You can't just rely on them missing. A lot of those are contested threes, particularly those from White. So you've got to say, this is what you want to do. It's like a test match in cricket. You win the toss, you do what the opposition doesn't want you to do.
Yeah.
You take them away from stuff. And there was this game. There's a couple of other games this weekend where I didn't think the defensive mentality was there to do that. And it's dog days. It's February. It's the middle. There's every kind of most teams think they're in the playoffs already. But if you want to win games, you have to. You're going to have to not just adhere to the scouting report, but you're going to have to put it into action.
And, so this one looked over with 2 minutes to go, 68-78. 153 to go. Jacob with the steal and run out, and he scored to make it 70-78. Interestingly, the game was then stopped on the following play because the clock didn't tick, and they took 5 seconds off the shot clock, but not the game clock.
Yeah.
It was weird. There was a few in Bristol because there was 2 games in Bristol. There was a few times this weekend where the clock just didn't start ticking when it should have started ticking.
I'm going to say two things on this as well. I mean, this is where this whole unbeatable stuff frustrates the heck out of me. And I pointed this out 3 weeks ago. We are in 2024 in Bristol. The shot clock and the game clock are not connected. There's no shot clock on top of the basket. This is not good. These are fixes that should be made to happen. I don't know what the technological side of it is, but we have different situations with the clock in different gyms. And that's something that should be mandated. And there should be red lights on the backboard everywhere, and there aren't red lights on the backboard everywhere. This is, we can broadcast to Hicksville, West Virginia, but we can't get red lights on the backboard. Really? Sorry.
So then Stevens, there's still some more to come from this, by the way.
Yeah.
Stevens missed a 3. Kristen got the offensive rebound, but then stepped out of court with 1:30 to go. Jacob drives, loses it out of court for a Knicks ball with 1:15 to go. He wanted a foul, but wasn't.
Yeah, he was struggling the whole game. He looked injured. He looked grouchy. He just didn't look like he was ready for that game.
55 seconds to go. Rideau gets an offensive rebound, but then he's called for an offensive foul as he went to go back up with it. To be honest with you, I thought he got away with one on the previous play, which was more egregious than that one. So to me, it sort of felt like
he absolutely plays on the kind of the limits of offensively as opposed to defensively. Offensively, he plays on the limits of kind of
physicality.
He does. He creates a lot of contact with his shoulder. He's not an easy guy to ref. The first play of the game, he created a bit of contact with his elbow, but every single time he's looking for that contact. And it was interesting. The first play of the game, the foul was called immediately. So I think the refs will probably start looking for that a little bit more now. So yeah, I don't think it was. I thought that was a borderline foul. If you play with that borderline physicality, that's the kind of call you might get.
As I say, the previous play, I thought it was a foul. I wasn't 100% sold on that one, but it kind of balanced.
They were up by 8 at this time, weren't they? They were up by 8 with a minute to go. I mean, they've had some pretty egregious near meltdowns this year, Cheshire.
Yeah.
So never quite paid for it yet.
No. Timeout, advanced the ball, 48.6. Lucas drives, fouled, and won, 72-78. But he missed the free throw, and he's standing on the free throw line. It comes back right out to him, takes it to the rim. Kristen, who didn't box him out, and that's the job of the the third man has to box out the shooter. Then fouls him, so he goes to the free throw line again, and this time he makes both, and it's 74-78. Timeout, don't advance the ball. 30 seconds to go. Stevens steps on the line, so they've turned it over again. Cheshire.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some pretty poor closing. Not just Cheshire, a few teams this year have really struggled at times to
Yeah.
I was at this point. I was thinking, time for Hacker Riddle. You're gonna foul Riddle, make him shoot him.
Yeah.
Because you're at four with 35 seconds or 40 seconds. You're gonna run it all the way down, but they couldn't run it all the way down because Stevens stepped on the line.
Yeah. Again, the shot clock didn't tick. The game clock went to 28.8. So I'm going to need a referee to contact me and explain this because I don't understand what happened. So they went back to 30.2, which was what was on the clock when he stepped out of bounds. But the ball was given to them in the front court, not where the ball was when the 30.2 was on the clock in the back court.
Yeah.
So they've gained some feet advantage, if you like, some distance. But they got 24 seconds on the shot clock, even though the ball's in the front court. Normally, if the ball's in the front court, you only get 14 seconds.
Not normally, always.
Always, but it seemed like it was being explained because the clock didn't tick. We've gone back in time, so therefore they get the full shot clock. Well, if you've gone back in time, why don't you go back to the place where the ball was supposed to be inbound, and then
I think it's because they forgot.
Maybe. I didn't understand it. You either take the time off the clock and you say it went from 30.2 to 28.8, so we'll take that much off the 24-second clock. Or you go back to 30.2 and you go back to the spot of the original inbound. So any referees out there wants to tell me what the ruling is on that, I don't know. I'm more than happy to be explained to. Anyway, so 26 seconds, the pass is deflected out of bounds for a Flyers ball. And then they inbound the ball. Lucas gets to the rim, lays it in. 21.2 seconds to go, 76-78. 21.2. Timeout, advance the ball. Now, Ben's obviously done this a few times before. And my assumed logic on it is what it does is it forces the other team to play defense rather than just foul you. And your idea is you run 14 seconds, then score, and then happy days. You look less convinced.
I'm just perplexed by it. The concept that you would give the opposition a chance to get a stop and a score and win the game when you're up by 2 and they're in a foul situation. I just don't see how those numbers play out. I just don't.
Even given Cheshire's relative struggles from the free throw
line. Yeah, because these are professional players. You know, I mean, you've got to be pretty. I mean, so what happens in that situation? You're saying that you're baiting the opposition into not fouling you, and you're going to score. That's basically the ploy.
And you basically are only giving them 7 seconds back.
Well, 7 seconds is
instead of 20.
17 seconds doesn't make much difference. You're going to get a shot in that time. My view was always, once we get into their fouling us game, it's on our players to win the game.
Yeah.
Get the ball in bounds, knock down your foul shots. And even then, it's nothing to stop them fouling them anyway if they want.
But they didn't foul. What they did was they played defense and they pressured them. White.
They nearly stole it twice.
White almost lost it. He was able to save it to Rye, who ends up in a triple team. By the time he gets the pass out of that and gives it to Rideau, they run out of time for a shot clock violation.
Well, there was actually, there was a very, very close. There was a 5-second call in the Glasgow game tonight.
The
Caledonia game tonight. If that Rye was exactly the same, that was a five. I watched it back. It was about 16.5 to about 11.5. So it was a borderline. But I was looking at the time. I was thinking this is a triple team. It's a 5-second call. They didn't make it. They were lucky that they didn't turn the ball over, to be honest.
And
then the clock goes to 5.9.
So the clock was stopped at 5.9. It then was corrected to 6, and it obviously should have been 17.2 because 7.2, sorry, 21.2 was where it was, and then 14 seconds later.
Yeah, I put that as well as the refs on the table. I put that on the coaches as well. Bristol's coaches have to see that. There's enough people on the bench. 21.2, 14-second violation. It's automatic. I do actually. I mean, it's primarily the refs in the table because the refs in the table know this. They're looking at these numbers, 21.2. And so they ahead. If this is going to be a shot clock violation, it's 7.2. But we don't have the shot clock's not linked to the game clock, is it?
No.
So it doesn't stop there automatically.
No.
And again, this is where we're all saying this.
Nor should it stop automatically, because obviously if the ball's in the air and it gets to 0, it's only a violation if it doesn't hit the ring.
True, let you off.
So anyway, they get 6 seconds. And I think this is where we're going to differ now, Dave, on no calls. Because I think Ollison set a blatant illegal screen in the backcourt because he's side on, sticks his back out and takes Rideau out. And I don't know, given all of the stuff that's called in pick and rolls for very minor, slightly skew whiffed or slightly leaning, I don't know how that's not an illegal screen in the backcourt.
I know how it's because the ref had swallowed his whistle. Yeah, well, I'm not going to particularly argue about that. I mean, you've got to be. I don't think he was trying to set a screen initially. I think he kind of spun onto him to kind of block him off afterwards. I think he was just there, but it was difficult to see how it was legal. I think it's fair to say. I'll give you that one.
And then I've watched the shot back again because obviously Bradley gets the 3 away, which if it goes in wins the game. White is closing him out.
Yeah.
And my view is White is closing him out and then trying to avoid him round the side. And that Bradley, there might be a little bit of contact, and then Bradley hits the deck. But Bradley didn't complain, and whoever came to pick him up.
I mean, he did look up at the ref. My view of it was that it was it might not have been contact, but it was a landing space foul, and it was White's left foot, not his right foot, because his right foot he comes to the side, but he jumped forward into Bradley's landing space, and that's a foul we've seen called time and time and time and time again.
My take, if I was to call a foul in that, and I don't think I would, but if I was to call a foul in that, I might call a 2-shot foul for arm on arm after landing.
No, it's all about where he puts his left foot for me. But it's all about where his left foot goes. But as he closes out, he realizes he's running into him, and he does a good job of getting to the side with his right foot and kind of spinning out of it. But the depth perception isn't great. We haven't got an inline camera because you're looking directly at it, so you don't know precisely how close he was. But my initial impression was, even if there was no contact, I'm not sure there was much to justify it, that he was in his landing space, and that is a 3-shot foul. But you know, to make that call in front of the Cheshire bench, when you're a young ref and there's no time on the clock, you've got to be pretty sure, and maybe didn't have the best angle. The best I can say. That was my view. But as I say, there might have been a base. If there's a baseline camera showing, in fact, he was 3 feet away from him. I'm wrong. You know, so we'll find out.
As I say, the only person I saw that was seemingly complaining about it was Andreas after the
he was straight in the refs. Because he's I mean, nobody else is looking. Obviously, nobody else is watching that. They're all none of the players are looking at it. Bradley's on the floor. Game is over, and he's having a pop at them. I mean, it was a weird game, wasn't it? I mean, ultimately, Bristol should have won the game, but Bristol are creaking with their injuries and their health. You can see that. Cheshire were on a bit of a down, having won 8 games in a row, which is always going to happen in the BBL. And Christian kind of stepped up for them, and then White stepped up for them a little bit as well. And they benefited from the fact that Bristol missed a ton of shots, and they defended quite diligently. So I'm not sure either team really deserved to win the game. Cheshire probably did because they were 8 up with a minute to go, but you know, Cheshire had these meltdowns at the end, and they just escaped with it. I'm still, as I say, for me. Make them, you know, get the ball to Aaron Rye. 21 seconds to go. Get the ball to Aaron Rye. Let him knock down foul shots. Win the game. You know, get a stop. Win the game. You know, you're worst case he makes 1 out of 2. You're up 3, and you've got to score again. Then you've got to make it 3 to tie. You know, I think it's. I don't know. I'd love to know that. I'd love to know the logic of it. I hope Ben at some point somebody asks Ben, why do you do that? Because he knows his team better than I do. So you know, I can't say he's wrong, and they won the game. But it's just so out with general coaching theory. I'd love to know the kind of the view they take on it.
Ollison, 23 points, 8 rebounds. Lucas, 14.6 assists. Green, 11 points and 16 rebounds. Kristen, 25 points. Rye, 16 and 11. White, 15. let's come to Sunday. Sheffield Sharks 79, London Lions 89. Obviously, it wasn't streamed, so we didn't see it. It appeared to me that the key run was a 16-3 spell late in the second quarter to take it from 26 to 29 to 30 to 45. Sheffield did close the gap in the third quarter. They had a 7-0 run around the last break to make it a 3-point game, but Lions with an 8-1 response, 63-73, and that seemed to seal it.
The league won't cover it, and the breakdown won't cover it either. I'm pulling a union job on this one.
I will at least give the scorers. Ramsey 13.7, rebounds Glasgow 12, Eitel Rock 11, and 5 assists. Connor Morgan 7. Yeah.
As an aside, though, I get, production values are important. I get all of that stuff. I get that there's a limitation on which games can be done at which times because of the facilities. I'm fine with all of that. I'm not sure why there isn't kind of an acceptable kind of backup, kind of lesser production or old-fashioned production or something, whereby they can put just a couple of cameras on so people who want to can understand that they're not going to get the full level of coverage, actually see what happens. It does seem to me that it's all or nothing. I get it's an image thing, and I get you don't want to project something which is a negative on the league, but someone says, "Oh, this isn't very good coverage." While watching this is a bit ramshackle. But then again, we had the full coverage of the Plymouth v Manchester in front of 200 people on a Thursday night, and and that didn't make things look very good either. So it just seems to me that at the very least, give us a Bet365 stream or something that we can follow along with. There wasn't that checked, which I'm sure puts the league in breach of some form of betting rules, I guess, or contracts. But yeah, I just think it's a bit, it's a little bit inflexible. I don't think it needs to be that inflexible. I don't think they're going to get judged on that, but no one's going to judge you for covering 3 games in a lesser way than you cover the other 177. I don't think that'd be a realistic criticism. And I know when they did, obviously the Newcastle Plymouth game couldn't get covered at Christmas, and the Eagles have managed to cover the European games without all the bells and whistles, so onto a reasonable level. So they could have put that together for that game, and they didn't. I just think it's a bit, as I say, just a little bit inflexible, a little bit over centralized, a little bit over controlling when it's such a limited amount of games. Moving on, sorry.
Morgan 7 of 8 for 20 points and 8 rebounds. Connor Morgan, Sharma and Olusheni 14 points each for a combined 11 of 15 shooting. That's pretty efficient, isn't it?
Difference maker. Yeah.
They were only 6 of 23 from 3 London, but they did have 52 points in the paint. Manchester Giants 85, Newcastle Eagles 106. Lawton was back. Giants scored 12.
Yeah, Lawton was back. That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, obviously, the more Lawton's playing, Pleaser's playing. Discipline is not working at the moment. Anyway, moving on.
Giants scored 12 without reply in the first quarter to lead 21-9. They actually made 15 of their first 16 2-point shots. The only one they missed was a bit of a heave on a shot clock buzzer from the elbow by William Lee, and that was, I think it was about 15 minutes that they
I was incredibly frustrated with the way that Newcastle approached this game, not because of just watching the game, but because of what happened at Cheshire last week when they didn't show up in the first 7 minutes and they were down 21-6 or something like that.
Yeah.
And they weren't ready to play that game on the road. And I'm afraid the beginning of this game, defensively they were execrable. The first half they were defensively awful.
It's a word that doesn't get used in basketball parlance very often.
It doesn't. Sorry, I do my best. I thought I'd actually think about what word I would use. I just thought I'm talking about Newcastle first before I get to Manchester. Actually, I'll talk about the refs first, because certainly, the very first, I was a bit on edge from the very first play of the game where they called an and one for Nick Lewis, having initially called it on the floor. And when you looked at the replay, it was definitely on the floor, and they changed it to an and one. I thought to myself, oh goodness, here we go. But I'm sure I'll speak to Ian on Friday, and next Friday, and he'll tell us why he was right.
Why you're wrong.
Hello, Ian. But beyond that, actually, it wasn't that badly ref the game. unwillingness. I thought the guards in particular. The issue I see with Newcastle is that they have a lack of appropriate fear. They have a lack of understanding as to they have to see things happen to them before it happens. I'm talking primarily about McGill, lessly about Austin and Johnson, and certainly about Green as well, playing the 4. And that's how 4/5 of their starting line. And they give up shots. They give up stuff to see what the opposition have got, and they let the opposition go at them, and they don't have. And I thought the first quarter of this game, they were just it was just a wreck game. They were just running, and you don't win. You don't get to the next level by being that. And they should be a team which is close to the next level in this league, right? With the talent that they have, and the skills that they have, and the offense that they have. But when they've got a full roster, when they've got a semi close to a full roster, and so for me it was mental application, and it was also Manchester coming out being a bit refreshed, making shots, enjoying the fact that they were playing. They could get the ball. Robertson, he was scoring inside. You got the ball. Lewis was be able to knock down a couple of shots. And Walsh came in, and that's the biggest indictment of Newcastle is that Walsh came in. He had like 17 points in 12 minutes at half time. And you know what? And they were all Evan Walsh points. And so you know what Evan Walsh is going to do. The fact is they weren't ready for it. And that isn't good enough. Again, it's the same as I said about Bristol and Cheshire. You have to be. It's February. You have to be on point on scouting report, and they got out of it in this game because Manchester aren't Cheshire. That's the reality of it. And unfortunately for Manchester, their half-court offense struggled a little bit once Newcastle actually stepped up and played defense at the beginning of the third quarter. And when Manchester's half-court offense struggles, they're in trouble because their floor spacing isn't great, and Newcastle's 3 guards are just flying. So Newcastle got out in transition, and that changed.
Before you get that far, Eagles made a few threes to get it down to 5. Giants remained in front. Eagles then had a 9-2 run to give them the lead, but McGill and then Austin on a technical both had 3 fouls before halftime. To back up your stats, Walsh was 6 of 7 shooting in the first half for 17 points.
And McGill and Austin's fouls were dumb fouls. There weren't fouls where you saw he's trying to take a charge or he's trying to make a play. It was just kind of reachy stuff and just kind of uncommitted stuff.
Eagles then a 9-0 run to lead by 5. Giants responded 3 dunks and 2 layups in a 10-2 run to 66-63. But then threes from Johnson and Ward Hibbert topped and tailed a 15-0 run around the fourth quarter break, 66-78.
I thought Ward Hibbert was a difference in this game. For all the points and the numbers that the other guys put up, I thought Ward Hibbert, and to a certain degree Del Pesh, actually came in and gave Newcastle a little bit of discipline in their play. Ward Hibbert guarded Walsh in the second half noticeably. I get the feeling that the coach really went through them at halftime, because I thought in the second half the challenging of shots was far better. And in fact, the only time that they didn't was when, for instance, McGill or Green is standing there looking at Bossier, thinking, he's not going to shoot it. Well, I've been watching all season. He's been shooting them, and he's been, and he makes them. And it's like, why are your hands down? You've got a guy who can shoot the basketball, and you're standing there as if you're not accomplishing anything. So other than kind of the limited mental breakdowns in the second half, Newcastle kind of shut Manchester down. And the difficulty is Manchester don't really have a focal point on their offense. There's a lot of dribble drive, and a lot of transition. But they don't, they don't really ever really look to throw the ball into Robertson more than 2 or 3 times a game. Lawton really isn't getting the ball in the post to score. They're reliant on pulling tough shots, and their defense isn't quite good enough. In fact, it isn't good enough, but particularly without Jamal, to hold off kind of the first actions from the Newcastle guards, who are offensively, Johnson and McGill and Austin, in their own ways, are offensively a problem.
Yeah, they are, yeah. Oh, sorry, I've just noticed that in the back of my shot here is this rather funky looking thing, which I'm sure somebody on YouTube are going, what the hell is that you've got in the background? But it's like a little, my son got a 3D printer.
Is it kind of,
it's a mask. You basically...
Is it being carved out of your face or something, is it?
So we'll do that. There we go.
Yeah.
Do the rest of it like that, couldn't I?
I could see, I could see.
No, he got a 3D printed for Christmas, my youngest son, and I thought
right.
it was a mad idea, but then he prints some pretty cool stuff. So
Yeah,
that is why that is sat in the
But
backdrop
then
there.
ask
It
what
just
else is
happened to
there.
be there. There is this rather funky little octopus, which is
Yeah.
3D printed as well, printed
Right,
like
3D
that.
printed
It's
octopus.
yeah, it's quite.
God. So
I
all fun
think
in the
yeah.
out the
There we
building.
go. Yeah, yeah. That's what we do. Sorry, I got totally distracted. I saw that mask and I thought somebody's going to be watching YouTube going, what the hell is in the background there? Now anybody listening on the audio is going to go, what are they talking about? Right, let's go back. We finished this game, didn't we? Walsh, 24
Yeah.
points, 9 of 12 shooting. Lewis, 14.6 assists. Lee, 13 points. They ended up 23 of 43 from 2-point range, which means
Yeah.
after about the midpoint of the first quarter, what is that? 8 for 27.
27.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not great. Johnson, 25 points, 5 of 10 from 3, 11 assists. Green, 23 points and 7 rebounds. McGill, 20 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists.
Yeah.
Bristol Flyers, 81. Surrey Scorchers, 94. Gooden was back for this game.
Yeah.
Bradley and Lucas hitting threes. Lucas, 9 early points. Bristol led 14-5, but Steele and Cooper responded. Scorchers a 12-0 run to 14-17.
Yeah. This is great. I mean, offensively, sorry, but I mean, Wang was on one today.
Mm.
He was playing like he was almost a Michael Jordan type of, or anything he wanted to do. He could get to the rim, he could create for others, he could finish in transition. He knocked down some shots. Bristol just looked mentally shot to me. You cannot give up the amount of three. I mean, their 3-point defense against Surrey was horrible.
Yeah.
Keely Johnson is a.
I mean, I'm in the Quinn Cooper fan club, but you can't let him make 6 threes.
Well, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. Well, I think they probably don't play him enough. I think he made 3 in a row in the first half. He comes out. I think what he took him out for. But there's just a couple of them. I mean, and they're generally offset plays. I mean, occasionally he gets one in transition, but it's generally his movement off a set play.
Yeah.
And he's very good at it. He is a BBL diuretic. He's constantly moving. He's able to set his feet and do that. But a little bit like, Poliza coming off the kind of the high screen, the curl screen for and Austin not being able to keep up with them. Keely Johnson is out of West Virginia. He is quick. He is nimble. But when Quinn Cooper is in the corner and he's guarding him, he's standing 8 feet off him in the corner. You know that Cooper's going to come up, the ball's on the other side. You know Cooper's going to come up to the top on the curl at the top for the 3. And he's miles away. And it's not physical, it's mental. And this is why I say they look mentally sharp. And that's not just picking on Keely Johnson, because if you look at the other 5 threes that they made, they'll be similar. And it won't always be him that Quinn Cooper made. But it's not just the shots that Quinn Cooper made, it's the threes that Justin Robinson makes. It's the threes that Andrew Lawrence makes. Wang made a couple, and it's the threes that Josh Steele made. Okay? This wasn't a situation where it was kind of Elliot Bailey making threes.
Yeah.
Saquon Jameson making threes, right? This was their shooters, right? Who are open off the catch.
Yeah.
Part of that is good offense.
Yeah.
Offense because they're moving the basketball and they're going from side to side. But
not all of it,
what
though.
they are.
Yeah.
And therefore you have to make them do something different. And I just thought they looked, as I say, I thought mentally kind of worn out. They were nowhere near where they needed to be defensively. Look, I mean, we're at that point of the season now, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. Yeah, the teams that win are the teams that at least try to play defense, at least try to do what they need to do in the game. Everyone tries to play defense, but trying to play defense the right way against the team that you're playing, right? And that's a separate. Everybody knows what every player in the league can do offensively. They're all out there. All the games are on YouTube. They only maybe each team maybe got 7 or 8 players who are going to shoot the ball regularly. Everyone should know what their game is, and everyone should know what pet players they have and what shots they are looking for. It's how well and how disciplined you take them away, right? That is how you're going to win. There's a reason that that the players historically in this league who've won the most have not been necessarily the most offensively talented players. You know, I'm thinking Drew Sullivan, Pat Flanoy, Darius. You know, they do, because they are able to follow and to be aware of where the danger is coming, and to snuff it out before it happens. And Bristol just had none of that, I'm afraid.
No.
Surrey played really well. And Surrey, and to be honest, the biggest thing for Surrey in this game for me was it's the first time I think I can remember seeing them celebrating defense. There was a couple of plays in the third quarter where they got stops, I think a shot clock violation, and Mohammed turned and gave it this. And that's a massive thing. You know, you're not celebrating. You know, I'm fed up with watching players do this where every time we get a dunk or run up and down shouting or threes every time you make a three. That's your job. That's what you're meant to do. When you start celebrating defensive plays, that's what builds a team. That's what builds a group. That's how you win. And that's a massive turning point for them, I think. Also, a shout out to Abdul Mohammed for undoubtedly the pass of the season. I don't know if you saw it. It was one to Quinn Cooper in the first half. There was a cross-court pass thrown to him on a semi-transition, and he was kind of on the same side as Cooper, and he kind of let a goalkeeper tipped it around the post.
Oh, yes. It's come back to me now.
Tipped it around the post and flicked it to Cooper. Although that was just an incredible, that was something that I went, ooh, that was an incredible play. And so it's that togetherness in relation to getting stops. Because Surrey have been an up and down team, haven't been that committed to it, I don't think, this season. But that togetherness in relation to getting stops is a big thing. I didn't think the referee was great in this game, I'll be honest. I mean, I know that Andrew Lawrence got hit in the face, but when he boots the ball all the way down to the end of the court, you know, I'm not sure how you can not give it technical for that. You know, I don't care how understanding you want to be as a ref. You know, ultimately, if someone touches the ball after it's gone through the hoop, we'll tee you up for that. But you want to put the ball into the crowd and we're going to do nothing because you've been hit in the face? No, I'm sorry. I just thought that was. I think there's a line, and for me, that I've always been told, you kick a basketball.
That's it.
You know, so I thought. Yeah, but it didn't really make that much difference. I thought a couple of block charge calls, which were pretty dubious, and you know, Lloyd got a bit frustrated at one or two, but nevertheless, you know, if there's ever a turning point win for Surrey, that is it. And I know we've talked about turning points from a lot, but that one in that way in Bristol, with the defensive effort that they showed more than the offensive effort, I thought that was the key to that game for them.
I'm still slightly distracted by you going full Roy Keane with you. That's your job. That's what you do.
Yeah, well, that is your job. I'm sorry.
The key run in the game was Robinson 3, Steele 3, Wang dunk, Wang 3. It was an 11-0 run. Andreas called 2 timeouts in 24 seconds, and actually,
Wang was awesome.
And actually called 3 timeouts in about 2.5 minutes. But obviously, the third one was the TV timeout, so it doesn't. But you don't see that.
Don't start me on that one. The free timeout because we want to. I still don't get that. I still don't want to get why that doesn't count as a coach's time. Just don't get it at all.
He wouldn't have called it if it did count. Because that would have been his last one.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, it's just free timeout. You know, I just don't get it. It seems to me just if you've got to have them, then if someone wants to take one quicker than it has to be taken, then you know that's their timeout.
So that got it to 46-58.
That's indicative of what he felt in relation to them where they were mentally.
Yeah. The 2 in 24 seconds, because I think it was just, I think that was after the first one was after the Steele 3 and the second one was after the Wang dunk. So literally all that happened was a turnover and a dunk.
Yeah, and that's because he's just desperately trying to get some focus into them. You know, that there's not you don't call a timeout just to tell them that was a crap play. You call a timeout because you're trying to both disrupt the flow, but more than anything, get into your players' heads. You know, you only get so many opportunities to do it, and if you know they're not where they need to be, and as I say, you know, they've had a ton of injuries. They've had personnel coming in and out. They're not as they were originally conceived now. They're running into a situation now whereby teams know a little bit more about them, and they know that provided the defensive rebound, you know, they've got a chance because they're not the most efficient offensive team. And on top of that, they've lost Raoul Graham-Bell, who is and Leslie Smith, who are two of their more physical offensive rebounders. You put all those little things together, and you add in the schedule that they've had with the extra games in Europe, and it's not. I know it's not a lot, but it's it's a bit of a drag, the travel in particular. You're away 3 days and then you come back to play on a Friday, as opposed to chilling at home with your physio for 3 days before you go play on a Friday. If it happens 3 or 4 times, it impacts you. Then that's where their slippage is. And now they've lost to they've lost to Surrey now. So there are no easy wins. So they're gonna have to find a way of picking some up.
They did get it 6 in the fourth quarter, but another 9-0 run, 5 for Lawrence sealed it. So Bradley with 20, Johnson 15, although 2 of 10. Ollison 15, although 4 of 8. Much more efficient.
Yeah.
Wang 25.7 rebounds, 8 assists. Cooper 20.7 of 8 from the floor, 6 of 6 for 3. And then I looked it up. That's only the 13th time somebody has made 6 threes without missing one. It's since 2008, which is
you want to 7?
Look. Nobody made 7. No, it was 13 sixes. I think it was 13 different people as well. Steele 16, 4 of 6 for 3. There was 17 of 33 overall from 3-point range. Sorry,
17 of 33, but Cooper and Steele are 10 of 12. That's a game.
Yeah.
That's a game.
Let's go to the final game. Caledonia Gladiators 93, Leicester Riders 97. Riders were 2 for 11 early on. I think they were 1 for 9. And they were down 14-6. Thomas had a couple of early fouls, and Gladiators were looking comfortable.
Yeah, Thomas had one of his rookie away from home starts, didn't he? Missed a couple of threes, ran straight into Onwas on the charge, and they struggled to get any offense going really early on. But as the game kind of transpired, it became apparent that was more because of the fact that they were just a little bit out of rhythm a little bit. Obviously I'm assuming they travelled up last night, so it wouldn't have been travel, but they just weren't in the rhythm of the game as opposed to anything that Caledonia were actually doing. Caledonia, I thought the game was more about Leicester than it was about Caledonia, because Caledonia, as I say, they're still a guard short. It's pretty average. I mean, Jimenez played really well in this game, but they asked him to do a lot. They asked him to play a lot of minutes and cover a lot, and actually he was possibly him fouling out may have actually iced this game for Leicester at the end. But they still need one more kind of shot creator. And they did well with hustle points. Ali Hodzic struggled again, but Moore came in. Moore's a tough matchup for Leicester. They haven't really got anyone who can guard him and shoot over the top of everybody. And Kyle Johnson gave him a bit of energy, and the bench gave him a bit of energy as well. But when Leicester got into their rhythm offensively, they looked like they were going to score every time down. Allen, particularly, they were guarding Allen with a big, and I just think that's death. I think if you guard Allen with somebody his own size, he's going to kill you. Fraser Malcolm struggled. Onwas a little bit better, but basically, if you haven't got your hands up with Ted Allen, he is a great shooter. There's just no ifs and buts about it. He doesn't have the physique.
You wouldn't draw it. You wouldn't draw it in a textbook.
No, he doesn't look like a great shooter. I'm used to kind of, the Jeremy Hyatt. If you're 6'6" and you're coming off, you're shooting above, you know what I mean? And John White, people like that, who were great shooters. Ted Allen doesn't look like that. But if you give an ounce of space and get him in transition as well, there's just no question he's a great shooter. And he has enough off the dribble to set up that shot. I don't think he scored 32 against them last time. I didn't think they did a very good job on him this time at all.
But he 28 this time.
Yeah, 28. But he got his shots in rhythm, which is the most important thing. Most of them. He occasionally makes 2 and then chucks up a slightly unless shot. But you can just about live with that because he's
the long 3 when he got tipped into the backcourt.
Yeah, the occasional one. So even when they weren't really hitting, he, a little bit like Christian for Cheshire, he kept them close in the first half.
So what happened was Leicester got it to 14-12. They continued to struggle from behind the arc and the free throw line. Gladiators had a 10-3 finish in the first quarter. It was 24-15. Malcolm had it out to 11, but then a Lowell 3 and 8 points from Allen, and it was tied at 36 points. And then they got out to 8 again, and again Leicester came back, and Holmes hit a 3 on the buzzer at halftime.
Yeah, well, that was a disaster for Caledonia because they had the ball, they had a timeout, they had effectively the last shot. There was only 2-second differential. They threw the ball in off the timeout. Malcolm shot the 3 from the corner, and they had 5 or 6 seconds, and Darren Holmes made the play on the buzzer. So, what was a 4-point game, potentially a 6 or 7-point game, at worst a 4-point game, was actually a 1-point game. And that type of stuff matters because in a one-shot game, at the end of the game, that stuff makes a massive difference. And then the beginning of the third quarter, again, I thought Leicester's defense picked up. They got some steals.
They got out in transition, didn't they?
Out in transition a little bit. And the Caledonia, as I say, they have issues with shot creation at the moment. Without Dubose, and either, as I say, they get him back or they bring somebody else in because I don't think they can survive the way they are. I think it's too hard for them. It's going to be you're asking so much of Whelan at this point in time to be the creator and the scorer and the rebounder and everything. But missing that kind of one extra shot creation takes away easy baskets for them. And they were pretty stacked at the beginning of the third quarter. Again, playing through Ali Hodzic with Bothwell, I don't think it works the same way as it has done earlier in the season. Ali Hodzic is going to have to finish. Onwas got into foul trouble, which was
he picked up his fourth, 2:45 into the third quarter.
I think it was an offensive foul, wasn't it? And he put, he kind of knocked somebody off on the drive, and he's a big loss for them because they don't have Buttrick anymore, so they don't have that extra American to come off the bench. So then it's Fraser Martin, Kyle Johnson, who are coming off the bench, and you want probably more minutes out of Onwas than that because Onwas can guard and makes good plays. So they kind of fell apart, but for about 5 minutes, and Leicester got ahead.
Yeah,
and Leicester kept. You didn't think Leicester were not going to score, to be honest. I just thought when they're the right guys on the court, when they had all their scorers on the court, so Edo at the 5, and then Lal, Holmes, McKenzie, and Allen, with maybe Thomas as kind of the 6th guy. The ball moves so nicely. McKenzie runs a team so well. It looked like they were scoring at will, but they couldn't get stops. They couldn't get sufficient stops to take them away.
So they got 11 up at the media timeout in the third quarter on a Thomas 3:55. No, that's 9, isn't it? 55-64. Leicester had 15 points in the first quarter. They had 32 and 28, so 60 in the middle 2 quarters. Gladiators in the fourth quarter just relentlessly getting to the free throw line and kept things ticking. Paliza then made a couple of threes, and it's down to 87-90 with 2:49 to go, and they actually had the momentum at that point.
Paliza, I don't know how many minutes did Paliza play. I didn't check the stats on this, but I thought he was off the court for quite a lot. I don't know if they've got a kind of a minutes kind of
26-40.
A preferable amount of minutes that they want him to play. That beyond that they're not that comfortable. But when you're down on Was, then I think I'd be giving Paliza a few more minutes than 26. I think he'd be up in the kind of early 30s because he is such a threat with his gravity and his shooting ability, and they know how to look for him, and he knows how to get open. So he made a couple of shots. He made them off Jimenez's passes. Jimenez was really good. Him actually in the fourth quarter, what brought them back was Jimenez and kind of the floor space, and he gave them because Bothwell was over dribbling a bit. Leicester guarded Bothwell a heck of a lot better than Newcastle did. Leicester didn't let him go left. That's what I'm talking about with scouting reports. Newcastle did it for a quarter, and then he got about five drives to his left. At which point, what's left of my hair is coming out, And but Leicester did a far better job, and that's the difference in winning on the road. But Jimenez came in, and actually, because he's a different type of guard, he moves the ball a bit quicker, he dribbles, penetrates a bit quicker. He was actually getting other people open a bit more, and he was playing great defense on McKenzie, but then he fouled out because he was just being a bit over aggressive.
Let's go through it then. 2:14 to go. More slips to the rim on the roll. 89-90. 2 minutes to go. Allen slips on the floor. Jump ball wrapped up by Onwas. Caledonia on the possession arrow. 1:41 to go. Moore again in the key on the switch. So he's got a huge mismatch. 91-90. Caledonia in front. And then Jimenez fouled out with 1:25 to go.
And that was so important because the reason Jimenez fouled out was because he was fully aware of the risk of Mackenzie. Right? Ultimately, when it gets to the last 2 minutes of every quarter, and in particular the last quarter, it is Mackenzie. That is Mackenzie's team. And Jimenez was actually denying Mackenzie the basketball. He's doing exactly what you're meant to do in that situation. And I see it. It happens so rarely nowadays. Really frustrates the heck out of us. Because it was a tactic we would use all the time. It was BJ Holmes is not touching the ball. Whoever it is, or whichever the Leicester Kuznot. I remember the whole game having telling Fab, do not let Kuznot touch the ball, because he's gone off for 20 already in 10 minutes. And they don't do that anymore because the Americans are playing against the Americans, and the game is, they're going up face to face with each other and who's got the most game and all of that stuff. And it's not really kind of the done thing to be that kind of stopper or to get in somebody's face like that. Almost does it. But I could count the number of players in one hand who do it. Now, Jimenez, he knows that if Mackenzie gets the basketball, he's in trouble. So what he's doing is he's all over him like a rash, and he's stopping him getting the basketball. Just unfortunately a little bit too physically, and the fouls were good calls. Now what happens is, as soon as Jimenez fouls out, Bothwell comes in. What happens? Mackenzie gets the ball top of the key, comes off a screen to his left. I know he's shooting it. Gareth might know he's shooting it. Jimenez knows he's shooting it. But Bothwell and Moore, two young Americans, they don't know he's shooting it. So Bothwell lets him come off to his left the way he wants to come off, and Moore drops into the paint in drop coverage. So Kimball's got a wide open three. Kimball's not missing.
He didn't miss, no. 91-93. And then the other end of the floor, Whelan going to the rim is blocked by Holmes. So it's an end line ball.
Defense.
A great assist from Whelan to Bothwell underneath for 93-93.
I'm not sure that looked like something they'd done before. That was a nice curl, and Bothwell just steps in and he's wide open. That's because of Whelan's gravity. He tracks that level of gravity. So the guy who's guarding Bothwell turns his head to see if he can take Whelan away from that shot, to take that space away, and Bothwell slips in. He's open. It was a great play.
Adowa misses a three, 58.8 to go, but Lowell went up for the offensive rebound, and Whelan sort of went underneath him, committed a foul.
Good call.
52.5 seconds to go. I mean, you talk about shots you've seen before. Mackenzie ran the screen for a mid-range jumper, 93-95.
But again, it's the appropriate, you have to know what's coming. You have to know that who's going to beat us. Right, it's not him, not at this time of the game. He did exactly what he did. He's very difficult to guard because he's very, very quick. He's one that we talked about it before. Players who are able to kind of shoot balanced jump shots. He probably moves the quickest into that jump shot of any player I can remember. He gets to his spot extremely quickly, but he doesn't overbalance whilst doing it. If that makes any sense. So he's not shooting lean. He's always on balance, particularly going to his left. And he's always making that shot. But again, they have to know. Caledonia have to know that if Kimball's going to make that shot, he's going to have to make it with somebody in his face. So the guy who's guarding the ball on the inbounds is going to step out to him, and they're going to trap him or something like that. You have to have an appropriate fear of what's coming, and they didn't.
Paliza missed a three. Leicester just about rebounded it.
The defense, though, because this is unlike the way that Newcastle guarded Paliza coming off that screen. It was the same play. They ran about 2.5 minutes to go in the game at Newcastle, where Paliza got a three. Leicester were ready for it, and they couldn't stop it. But they couldn't stop it because it's not easy. But they made him shoot it off balance. He wasn't in rhythm, and that's why he missed.
And then Onwas commits his fifth foul, and that's also the team's fifth foul. So Leicester going to the free throw line. Mackenzie,
it's a bad foul. I'm sorry, you don't foul. I mean, he missed one or two, but you don't foul Mackenzie at that point. It was a lost mark. He gave it a wave to the ref afterwards as well, which he got technical for. And it's just just a frustration foul. You can't give frustration fouls up with 25 seconds to go in a game, or 20 seconds to go in a game.
Mackenzie goes 1 for 2, 93-96, and then an awful lot of dribble for Bothwell without anything happening, and he eventually fired up a 3, missed it, and Adowu got the rebound.
Well, this is the thing, you see. I mean, they've had this a little bit before. Bothwell's looking to get people the ball, but Leicester are being diligent and staying on those guys, and they're not giving it. Bothwell's looking to make the pass for a 3, okay? And all these guys are cutting and coming up and setting screens and trying to kill, but none of them are open. I think Leicester might be switching a bit of it, and that means because Bothwell's not a natural point guard, he's dribbling and waiting and waiting and waiting. What that needed was a bit of movement. It needed the ball in Whelan's hands to try and make a player get a quick 2 or something. But it just looked like a team that didn't really have a true point guard at that point when they needed one. You compare that to the way Mackenzie took over, for instance, with the high screen at the other end and the 3 and the curl shot. There was no uncertainty, no doubt in what Mackenzie did. And with Caledonia, there was a lot of doubt. And yeah, he ended up jacking up a 3, which is probably all he could do. But that's a shot that Leicester would take 100 times out of 100 in that situation.
And Adowu makes a free throw, and that's the ball game. Paliza, 5 of 10 for 3 for 17 points. Whelan, 3 of 10 shooting, 15 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 6 turnovers. Bit of a mixed bag.
38 minutes, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it 38? It was 30. It was high 30s. I didn't. 37.53. Yeah, we can round up to 38. More 14 points, 9 rebounds. They were 27 of 32 from the free throw line. They made more 1s than 2s in the game. Allen, 28.6 rebounds, 5 steals. Mackenzie, yeah,
that's a big thing when we got long arms when he's those live ball steals. They're getting out and they're running. They're a good team in transition.
Mackenzie, 21 points, 5 assists. Holmes, 15 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. They had 18 points off turnovers and 30 fast break points.
Yeah.
So let's quickly run through the table. London are first, 26-3. The magic number is 2. They can win next. They can win next weekend if London beat Bristol and Caledonia beat Cheshire. Then London will win the league. You did.
Was I right then? Was I right? You said that last week it would be March, were you?
You did. Yeah, I was saying that. Yeah, I was saying that. It'd be interesting actually. Can they win the league before anybody else qualifies for the playoffs? That must be a first. Because if Cheshire lose, yeah, I think they can. I think they can probably win the league before anybody else qualifies for the playoffs. So Cheshire in second, 15 wins and 8 defeats. Caledonia, 14-10. Caledonia haven't lost the head-to-head with London yet, so they could still technically win the league.
Right.
As long as it's not a 3-way tie with Cheshire, because London
it's not going to be a 3-way tie with Cheshire.
Just saying.
Let me answer you that one. I think Coach Bozic stopped playing points difference about maybe the 21st of September.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't need points difference in that game because they're already 5-1 in that 3-way tie. I looked it up. Newcastle and Leicester are both 13-11. Sheffield are 11-13. Bristol 11-14, and Surrey just behind them now on 10-15. Bit of a gap then to Manchester 7-19 and Plymouth 4-20.
Yeah, so we're getting a little bit more separation, aren't we, with the kind of the Leicester, Newcastle, Bristol, Sheffield group. And now you've got in Caledonia potentially coming back to that group as well. As I say, it's deck chairs on the Titanic, but third is better than second. Sorry, third is better than fourth. Yeah, absolutely. Sixth is better than fourth.
Yeah. Certainly is. So, what's happening next week? I don't know.
Oh goodness.
Just quickly look. 18th. No, I'm doing Saturday next week, so we're all good to go. Good to go.
And then it's the international break after that, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It is.
I'll wind up my GB round.
I'm willing to talk you through Guinea versus Kenya or Indonesia versus Australia if you're interested.
Indonesia versus Australia. Will that be close?
I wouldn't imagine so. I haven't seen the rosters
Yeah.
for all the teams yet. So,
I mean, yeah, Guinea. I mean, yeah.
yeah.
Guinea have always been overshadowed by kind of the shinier counterparts, New Guinea.
Right. On that bombshell, we're going to wrap it up. Any predictions? Are you watching the Super Bowl tonight, Dave?
No, I don't do that rubbish.
No.
I used to. It was
I
sport
used to
on
as
TV.
well.
I
But
used to watch it, and when I was growing up, the Super Bowl was. It was that time when the NFC teams were hammering the AFC teams every single year.
yeah,
So like Chicago would beat New England 46-3 with the
yeah,
fridge and that type of stuff. And every year it would not be close. And LA would get the Broncos to the Super Bowl and they would get blown out.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's so much so that I think it was actually the
yeah.
Simpsons actually took the piss out of it by showing a clip once at the Super Bowl where the Broncos went over for a touchdown in the last second and they were only losing 42-10 or something like that. So at that point, and because the halftime shows were so interminable and it was about half past one by that point, I always gave up by then. And to be honest, American football, I enjoyed it when I was a kid because it was on the telly, but not, I know the rules and I followed it and all that stuff. I just no real.
See, I lived in Pittsburgh as a child, so I was Steelers.
Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah, that was my era. Terry Bradshaw, Len
Terry
Swan,
Bradshaw era.
Rocky
There you
Bly,
go.
Mean Joe Green.
What was it? The Mean Green?
Mean Joe Green.
Curtain. Steel Curtain.
Steel Curtain. That was my era.
Curtain,
It was kind of the end of the Steel Curtain era that I was there for.
Right.
One for the thumb in '81 was the catchphrase. Because they'd obviously won 4 Super Bowls before that. Anyway, on that bombshell, I'm now that I'm the parent of an adult, I don't know that I can stay up that late anymore.
I just hope you've got the rent book out.
That wasn't mentioned yesterday.
Cool.
Right. So on all of that sort of bombshell, we'll wrap it up for another Sunday night, and Dave and I will be back next week to do it all over again. But for now, goodbye.